Last time on Cyberpunk RED, the team secured the Zetatech black box tractor tech from a self-driving semi and fended off a Zetatech recruitment team that offered to make them rich if they betrayed their Maker Enclave employers. Afterwards, they headed to a nomad outrunner post with the hijacked Titan 1X self-driving semi. True to your deal with the nomads, you gave the vehicle to Omen's cousins, who promptly began documenting and disassembling it. In camp, you dealt with, or failed to deal with, the residual tension from the showdown with the Zetatech team. Omen, quietly furious at Atlas for turning things violent, took out her aggressions on a punching bag. Atlas, for his part, looked back on the encounter with regret, while taking down the Zetatech Aerocop with a rocket launcher was immensely satisfying. Killing several of the opposite team didn't sit well with him. After several days in camp, with Atlas recovering from his wounds and contemplating the piece of shrapnel that they took from his body after they fight, the team headed to Night City. There they met with Athena, one of their Maker Enclave contacts, and exchanged the black box for their final payment. They also informed Athena that Zetatech had tried to bribe them into turning on the Makers. Athena took this in stride and thanked them for the information. The edgerunners also learned that there were now bounties on their head at 500 Eurobucks apiece, with Atlas being the only one specifically called out and identified as the team leader. With the mission done and a little bit more experienced for their efforts, the edgerunners are now contemplating a few weeks of downtime. Meanwhile, Rocketblade fever is sweeping Night City as the soon-to-be annual street tournament kicks off, culminating with a massive multi-day championship at the city's McCartney Stadium. And in a retcon from last episode, I think I mentioned that the tournament was going to take about 4 weeks. I want to make it 8 weeks because the team has at least like 3 weeks worth of downtime. So we want to have that in the background for a little bit longer. So in terms of improvement points, we had talked about experience last time and figured out like the math of who did what and what your rewards were. Did anyone end up spending improvement points or wants to spend improvement points? Okay, I did. Chris. So
I took my interface from I took my interface from 4 to 5. That's
okay.
And then I've got 30 points lying around for next time. That's it.
David, what did you do?
I took my media from 4 to 5. So we wanted to kind of accelerate things and see how things played. And so that's the way I went.
All right. And that would
what
also leave
5 will do for me, I still have to look up.
Yeah. Sorry, who else had their hand raised? Is that Josh?
Yep. I also took my my roll ability up to level 5, and found out that with the solo, a lot of things cost either 2 points or 3 points to upgrade them. But I was able to upgrade to a spot weakness for 1 point, which basically the first attack that I do each round does 1 extra damage now.
I think you can, if I recall, you actually don't spend those permanently. You decide how they're spent as an action during combat.
Oh, well, interesting. Because I use the first 4 to do fumble recovery, which basically negates, like, ones are just ones. They don't count against. Like, they don't explode down.
Yeah, I think that's right, because they're not... You just have a pool, right?
Yeah, I think it's a pool of points, and so you can reallocate things. If I could be recalling incorrectly, but I think you can just reallocate things on the fly. It like takes an action in order to reallocate. So if you like, the way I see it is you would allocate them at the beginning of combat, and then if you absolutely needed to, you could reallocate in the middle, but probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't see why I would.
Unless things are going really bad.
One of the weird parts about that, I guess, then would be one of the other abilities that you have is like an initiative reaction. So I guess I could just start off. It would basically increase my initiative by, well, technically 5. And then I could automatically, like, first round, just reallocate that right away.
I think you then drop at that point. I think trying to find it in here.
Page 146 has a combat awareness and action sidebar, which explains exactly how it works. So if you have a combat awareness rank of 6, then it explains like the budget for what you would have. So like in their example, damage deflection 1 costs 2 points. spot weakness costs 2 points, and threat detection costs 2 points.
Yeah. So that was what I was using when I upgraded it.
Right. So your combat awareness went to 6. So now you can do more things.
Well, it went up to 5.
Oh, sorry, it went up to 5. So you can still do you can do more things. So, but you, like to David's point, like if you needed to, you could decide to. Now you can probably hear the dogs playing in the background. You might be in a situation where you really wanted to bump up, damage deflection because you're going to go and tank, right? Yeah. So you modify everything to buy damage deflection for 4 points to.
Yeah, I still like that fumble.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
That's like the best ability that I've ever seen.
Definitely. All right, so did Omen upgrade anything, Aaron, or is she staying pat for now?
I was busy upgrading my martial arts because I was working on that a lot. So, but I'm really reading the rules about that.
All right, cool. So a week has passed since you started your downtime. And in that week, your bounties have gone up. So you check in at the bounty board, and there seems to be a little bit more chatter about this mysterious team that took down the Zetatech truck. Your bounties are now up to 1,000 EBs each, and Atlas is at 1,500. It seems to like there's who is this mysterious solo, right?
They don't like me, or they like me too much.
I wonder why.
So while Aaron's working on Omen's upgrades, let's talk Atlas. So Atlas was looking to do some downtime, and so Josh, you want to talk about what Atlas is planning to do?
Yeah. So I guess like right away, like as soon as the job ends, I mean, he is gonna walk back to his cube, and. On the way, he'll pick up some like little pre-packed food and everything like that. Gets back to his cube, like keeps that like hard face on for the entire walk back because streets are dangerous and whatnot. But as soon as he closes the door, he'll basically like unpack the pre-pack, put some inside the little hubcap that he uses for his little cat's bowl. His cat, by the way, his name is Scratches. Has like a little scar over one of his eyes. And he just pulls down the bed from the side wall and will just kind of sit down and just like stare out at the wall that's probably only like 4 feet away from him inside the cube, but just sit there and like give like a heavy sigh, and for the rest of the night is just like replaying the image of the people's faces that he killed in his mind. Until he just like lays down and falls asleep and lets the cat like cuddle up on his chest as he falls asleep. No blankets or anything like that because he's in a cube and poor. but just like the regret that comes after the high, I guess, is kind of like the way. And then his main side hustle, the one that he's, I guess, his regular job outside of like the regular jobs, is he works down at the Holy Angels Church, which is it's like the book says it's a 3-story Roman Catholic church run by Father Kevin, which provides sanctuary and spiritual guidance to anyone who is willing to lay down their weapons and talk peacefully. And basically, I imagine his job there is kind of like the bouncer to make sure that like the people that are there don't actually have weapons. Like he's the guy that kind of pats them down and then stays in the room to make sure that things don't get too heated and can break up fights if he needs to. Just to kind of give himself some like humanity back. The redemption, like, it's the holy avenger kind of thing.
Right. So I will. Let's see if I can do this. So I can share my screen.
If you wanted to see the church, it's on 312. That was literally the entire blurb about the church, though. That's about all that I could find.
So I'm currently, hopefully I'm sharing my screen in Roll20. So this is, the church is located in Little Europe, which is, I guess this is the western side of Night City, inside the beltway that represents Route 16. And so the you'll know. So you spent a fair amount of time there, and it does seem natural that you'd be hanging out. Father Kevin is a former solo, who basically like hung up his guns and tried to go the peaceful route. So I can see how he would be very much. I don't know. I think he would come in occasionally. I think he probably doesn't have any idea who you are, but gives you like the good job there, son, and like pat on the shoulder as you go through. Right. The 6th Street gang is frequents this place. They are kind of almost like a paramilitary organization at this point. They're former military that have gotten tired of the chaos in Night City. They just got a contract to enforce security in North Haywood, which is North Haywood. I got to move the map a little bit. So you got your Haywood district.
We were going to steal. The truck was coming from Haywood Industrial Zone. So
right, Haywood Industrial Zone,
over on the southeast.
Yeah, so you guys could be able to see the map, right? And so the Haywood Industrial Zone is over here by Route 126, and then Haywood is in along Route 828, and so it would be in the northern area of this particular map. Northern Haywood, I think, I don't know that it's actually called out as. Yes, because New Westbrook is up above, and then there's the executive zone, right? So they are. So basically, the 6th Street gang in this incarnation of them, they're kind of, I don't know, like they're kind of the good guys. Like they're tired of the chaos and the corruption of the Night City Police Department, and so they decided that hey, we can do a better job. They're bucking to be able to do the same thing in Little Europe that they did over in Haywood, and they've been hoping that the church might give them a little bit of insight into that, and that Father Kevin might give his blessing to basically, this is a good idea. We need to tap down on the chaos. But I think Father Kevin's a bit skeptical about armed paramilitary force who might occasionally get a little too rambunctious in their enforcement. But generally speaking, I think the 6th Street gang are looked at as a force of, like, if not good, then stabilization. There's a guy who comes in periodically named Roof Diver, who that's his code name. He's part of the Davis Squad, one of the more elite groups within the 6th Street gang. And, he's just a family guy. He got his name because he jumped off of a roof trying to save one of his coworkers, lost his arm, and then replaced it with cybernetics. Basically his squad came together to raise the money to get him a new cybernetic arm. But at the end of the day, he's going home to his wife and kids, right? And so I think there's he sees Atlas and just kind of strikes up a conversation with him every once in a while, because I think he's sensing that maybe he's a little that Atlas might be a little lonely or whatever. So I think so that there's a standard, there's a solo hustle chart that I think we could probably modify for your purposes. Given that, I'm imagining that in your job as a bouncer, people might occasionally look to you and go, hey, I could use a little help with this after hours. The way the solo hustle, so it looks like for hustles, because we haven't actually done side hustles before, the amount you're paid is dependent on your role ability rank, and the outcome of rolling a d6. So it's not even like a skill check, at least for the role-based hustles. So if you want to roll a d6, and then your roll ability is currently a 5, you said?
Yep.
So this is the second column on page 382. And
oh man, I gotta scroll all the way down. I do.
guess I should.
Oh, good. I actually got the high one.
All right. So a 2, background work, high end client, right? So we'll say, the 6th Street gang could use a little backup, doing some security, a security gig in North Haywood. And so I think Roof Diver is like, hey, you seem like a good guy. I could use some assistance on this particular job. Don't worry, he's like, he's kind of respecting your nonviolent ways, perhaps not knowing, he doesn't know you as Atlas, right? Like, I'm assuming like Atlas is your code name that you're doing when you're doing net running.
Yep.
Are you going by Shake and Bake while you're working at the
Shake and Baker?
Shake and Baker. So he hires you on for that gig, and you earn 300 EB this week.
Woohoo!
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Man, if I could do that for the entire month, I'd make more money doing that than our last job.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, did we pay for, did we use our 1,000 already to pay for our food and rent for the month and stuff like that? Because I already kind of deducted that out.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good question from a logistics standpoint, because I think
it's how we stay hungry.
Yeah, prepaid for the month, right? So you got your job, you had your credits, and then you spent it, right? So I think that's one of the things we learned in terms of downtime for Cyberpunk RED is downtime and expenses matter, because perhaps if you had known that when Zetatech had offered you the 10,000 EVs each, you would have been like, oh, well, yeah, what's a little bit of betrayal amongst friends?
Yeah, it would have been a little more of a I could not eat kibble.
Yeah. It provides a little bit more context to your decision. So, all right. Yeah. So Atlas, as you're working it till the end of your shift, and so David, talking about Angry Bob. So
yep.
It sounded like Angry Bob, when we were talking offline, was going to be basically just palling around with the different members of the group trying to get B-roll, or what is he doing?
Initially, he's getting the human side of the story of edgerunners, and kind of following people. And in my mind, part of the reason why he's in this group is he's talked with everybody here, that knows that he's going to do this, and that he'll, if it hits big, they'll get a cut of whatever rolls in, but that it's kind of the reality of edge running. It's not all explosions and glory. You still have to go home and feed your cat.
So are you following? Are you tagging along with Atlas to start?
I think Bob would follow Atlas, to where he's staying. But if he's in the cube, they're probably not windows that he could shoot video through. Right. So he'll try and follow him and take some shots at the church, and kind of see him doing his day-to-day sort of stuff, not just blowing up air cars.
Do I know that you're following me? Because if I know you're following me, I'd probably invite you into the cube.
I mean, I think...
but if you're trying to be covert about it, then yeah, I mean, the cube is
there's a couple ways I could do it. I think right now Bob wants the authentic, as you're not knowing you're on camera sort of thing. And so he's just going to kind of follow at a discreet distance.
Fair enough.
With this giant camera rig on his shoulder.
Yeah, so I got a question for Angry Bob, right? So it is known to this group that there are bounties on your head, and the bounty has gone up. So how are you reconciling this against your ongoing coverage? Because obviously it's part of the story, but you're also having following the guy who's got the highest bounty on his head, and the only person whose notoriety has like actually broken out on the street. Like,
yeah, it's like this is all him shooting footage that he's gonna splice together later, and it's not going out live. It's not like, yeah, here's Shake and Bake at this church right now.
I'm getting.
Yeah, and I heard he had a $1,500 $1,500 Eddie bounty on his head. It's and yet he's doing community work. Sure would be shame if someone came in here and shot up the place. No, he's not doing that.
No guns.
I think it's important, right? So I think,
although it probably does occur to him that if he did go live, this would be an amazing story that he could like live broadcast to the city.
All I'm saying is, as the bounty continues to go up,
yeah,
and
that temptation's going to be there.
Like I'm envisioning a potential payday for Angry Bob as like the bounty goes up, people want to know where Atlas is right now, and it's like, well, but
yeah, and like Bob is loyal to the people he's with, and he cares about people in general, even though he's kind of an ass. And so I think if he was that tempted, he'd go to the group and go, hey, there's a lot of people who are out after the bounty. We could leak it that we're going to be that Shake and Bake's going to be here at some point, and then set a trap for him, sort of thing.
We're going to set a trap for a bunch of solos. That's
right.
Good thinking.
Yeah. Well, that's why we talk about it. That's why we buy the turret for APT, the auto turret for APT that she can control.
I'll just take a magnet. Just give me some magnets.
So Angry Bob, so so as you're shooting all this B-roll, and you have your own downtime stuff that's happening, obviously, and so you did actually you did leak some. In our last adventure, coming back, you're part of the reason why the story broke in the first place, presumably with blurred screens and what have you, and then other people started digging into it. And so, your editor at one of the lower circulation but still better circulation than your media networks is the Night Pulse. So the Scream sheet we were referring to last week, which didn't have a name but now does. And so Angela Dorset reaches out to you. She's your editor, and she's like, what do you got for me, Bob? Yeah, this is like, it'll be like, doo-doo-doo. I can't do the sound from Cyberpunk 2077, but like, doo-doo.
Yeah, for the
I'm assuming it's
agent
like texting
going off.
Yeah.
It's like I've got an angle on one of the contestants of the Rocketblade thing. She's up and comer, so I was gonna shoot that angle and kind of dig into the Maker side of things on the Rocketblade scene. See where it came from before the corpse got their claws into it.
Yeah, but what else do you have on this crew?
I'm working on that.
There's a lot of people working on that. A lot of interest in that particular, you were promising me the inside dish on an Edgerunner crew, life on the street and all that. Now you're doing like this Rocketblade thing. Like, I feel like if it's good, I might buy it, but you promised me a story here.
I know. But I promised you a documentary, not a story. Like I'm giving you a big insight into edge running in general. I will say that one of the Rocketblade people is from this crew.
Okay, so there's a connection here. Okay.
There's a connection. There's a definite through line here. So yeah, I'm gonna be spinning things up and try and make sure that our stories don't get them killed, though.
Yeah, that's a you problem.
It's a you problem if they suddenly die and I don't have a story to sell you.
Yeah. Look. So I appreciate your I guess they're called ethics. But remind you, we got to build interest in this story. So you know, you got to keep feeding me some stuff along here. So why don't we do?
I understand. I understand. If it bleeds, it leads. But if it's dead, you don't get any money because you're not selling anything.
Depends on the payoff. There's always the sequel. Look, Bob, you got to think bigger picture here. Use this crew to get to the next thing. Right. There's always other crews. Think of it as the season 2, right? You're in season 1. You're in season 1 mentality. You got to be thinking season 2 mentality. You got to build towards season 2. So you want to do a media hustle roll and see?
Sure.
We can twist it to the story.
Is that the believability roll or so? What I'm trying to remember.
No, this is actual media hustle is 383, and so you roll a d6. It's the same deal that what Atlas just did. You roll a D6. So this is basically like, yeah, you're working this, and obviously there's the role playing about your contact with Angela and what have you. But this is how you're actually paying the bills this week, or trying to.
Got it. Yeah. It does not look like Roll20 has that. So out comes the physical dice. Is it just 1d6?
Just a D6.
No modifiers. I got a solid 3.
All right, a 3. You did some boring ad writing to pay the bills.
Oh God, I hate ad writing.
That's so your rank is 5, right?
My rank is now 5. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 300 EBs.
Okay. I may head to a cyberware clinic with that monies. To up my media game. I have to find it. I gave Aaron my book.
That's all right. We'll come back to you for you can take a look at it. So
cool.
Earn,
so I have a whopping 450 eddies right now.
So it's funny, right? They call it EB in Cyberpunk Red, but in the game they call it eddies. So why
it's
is it
Euro dollars? But it was also called Eurobucks.
Okay.
So it's EBs for Eurobucks or eddies for Euro dollars.
All right.
I like eddies because ebbies just sounds weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense because I was like, are you guys saying eddies or ebbies?
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it threw me initially at first as well until I was like, okay, why are they EBs here in the book, but in Cyberpunk Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix, they're all eddies. In 2077, they're called eddies. And it's like, and I think that something changed.
Right, the slang is in flux, so we're just going to keep using them interchangeably.
Yeah. This is the inflection point where it goes from Eurobucks to Eurodollars and EBs to eddies.
Yes, the currency wars, the untold story of Cyberpunk Red. All right,
just like they used to be a plural, now there's a they singular.
Right. All right. So meanwhile, so Aaron, obviously Omen wants to get in on some Rocketblade, right? So
yeah.
So what? So I was thinking. So we were talking about this before the show, and I was trying to, as I was mentioning to the group, I thought, David and I had talked about this on one episode of the podcast. We're like, inspired by Battle Angel Alita and the whole, I think they call it motor ball in there. It's like this just cutthroat roller derby style smash up, right? Oh, that'd be great. We could do a one shot for it. And I'll just start teasing it as in the scream sheets about this big thing that's happening in Cyberpunk Red. And it never occurred to me that anyone in the group would actually want to do this. Aaron does, which is awesome. So it's got me thinking about what we're actually going to do. But I guess my question for you, Aaron, is, so where does Omen come to? What is Omen's take on rollerblading? What drew her to it? Did she do this as a kid whenever she'd get onto dry land? What's your take on Rocketblades?
I would think it would be, she's been on dry land for a little while now, even though her roots were, in the sub as they were wet. I think it would be something that they would do in the nomad camps. as like a training and as fun and have their own races because it's all about movement still.
Mm-hmm.
So
it reminds me of
if the cars are, in some state of repair, this is some way to hone your skill.
Gotcha. Cool. So so I'm envisioning for rollerblades what I imagine. So not for rollerblades, for rocket blades. It's kind of like it's a bit of a metaphor, and then sometimes people take it literally, right? So just like in Battle Angel Alita, right? Like you've got who knows what's actually powering the blades. All we know is that you move fast. And so I imagine like everybody's got their own homegrown blades and you're able to go at significant speed for some reason. And maybe some of them are a little bit of a radioactive isotope in there that's providing you with a little bit of extra boost. Somebody's got like an electric generator, that whatever. We don't really need to worry about how rocket blades work. Some people may actually have like boosters tied onto their blades. We'll figure out, just imagine it is some sort of cyberpunky, hand wavy racing through the city, a la Fast and the Furious, right? Like, and with appropriate physics. Fast and the Furious 10 physics, not Fast and the Furious original, like real cars physics. The way that I was thinking about doing the Rocketblade tournament was basically writing up the Rocketblade tournament as a downtime, taking inspiration from the new salvage downtime that Art Talsorian had posted to their website. And so I think I was going to draft David to help me with some rules as we kind of figure out how this looks going forward. But I basically stole liberally from the role-based downtimes. And so I think we'll do something similar where we basically do some sort of a skill check to determine sort of how well you do in the race. Like,
okay,
where do you place first, the second, or third? And then have a D6 to kind of describe the action of what happened during the race and how much money basically you pick up during the race, either as part of the pot or you start gathering a fan base or what have you. So this may evolve over time as we play with it a little bit more. But so I was looking at the DVs out of salvage. And so I guess as we're kind of building this as we go, Aaron, what skill do you think you would use for the purposes of rocket blading?
Athletics.
Cool, because I think, I can see a couple ways of like rocket blades playing out, right? Going to your particular style of rocket blading. So maybe martial arts could come into it if you're intending on taking out the competition, like not necessarily killing them, but like, playing dirty, I can see martial arts coming into it, as opposed to if you're going to be the lean, mean machine, just like skates ahead of everybody else, then athletics or like, so that's kind of where my headspace is. What's your headspace?
I saw athletics. I mean, there's also drive land vehicle because it is kind of a land vehicle.
Yeah, so I think part of it goes to your strengths and what your best role is, but I think it also goes to your style, right? So drive land vehicle, I feel like your style of race would then be more head to the like full throttle. You're basically racing as you would have driven, versus athletics is very much a like almost like parkour, right? Like you're grinding on the rails as you go through and that kind of thing.
Yeah, races are also chase scenes, so it's kind of a combination of what you're doing versus what everybody else is doing. If you fail your first off roll and you're in the pack, then you're probably working with a bunch of other skills.
Right. So I'm imagining, I'm envisioning two different ways of playing Rocketblade. So for the downtime, I'm thinking it's just one skill check for that particular week. We see how you do for that particular week's entry in the Rocketblade tournament. And then we build toward actually playing Rocketblade when we figure out how we do that. In which case, like all of the skills come into play.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
All right. Well, let me see if I can get off on the mark and just dust them all.
Whoa! All right, so I'm going to have to figure out what our DVs are going to be for this.
Wow.
Because I had set the
I
top
don't even
DV.
know what I rolled.
You rolled a 23. I had set the top DV as a 17, kind of going off of the first place. First place. Sorry, I started off at DV, I think 17 for first place, 15 for second place, and 13 for third. So obviously that puts you at the top of the pack. Roll a D6 as well. This is where we may have to revisit the difficulty values to make sure that we understand,
2.
what's interesting. All right, so 2.
Bob is definitely recording all of Omen's races. So
so I have I on my chart I have 6 ways of basically how you blade, right? And so to run down the chart real quick, I think because it'd be helpful for folks, but I had number 1 is a wipeout, number 2 is an underdog, number 3 crowd favorite, number 4 finished with style, 5 rival for life or at least the tournament, and then 6 battered but alive, right? With the idea that each one of these would inspire us in some way to kind of riff on what happened. So with a 2, that's underdog. So although you got a 23, I'm thinking, so how do you put those 2 things together? How do you think the race went given your role? And that
I was the underdog, and then I just took over wildly and beat everything as the dark horse, and no one saw it coming.
She was an unknown.
Yeah.
No one saw it
Bladed her
coming.
way to glory.
Unknown nomad, just trying to represent her family.
Out of nowhere.
All right, so let's see. I think I should probably come up with a purse that is related to your finish, plus a purse related to the thing that you actually did. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Josh?
It's like those in the Olympics, you see the one person from the little known country that's just there, the only person in their parade on the flag.
And then
you don't expect them
Jamaican
to do
bobsled
anything.
team.
She's the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yeah. So the nomad comes from nowhere to win it all. The scream sheet practically writes itself. So we're gonna say you made. Let's see. Your what is your roll ability rank?
I don't actually know how to tell you the answer to that.
Did you up it?
I don't think I did.
Then it's 4.
Okay, I'm a 4.
So since you came in first place, you get 300 EVs. Because you were the underdog, you got an additional 50 EVs. And then so you get a total of 350 EVs for this particular race. But it's also some sort of notoriety, perhaps building towards you're kind of, this is where again I might have to reconcile some of the earnings that you make for underdog, but people were cheering you on, right? There was a small but determined group who were yeah, nomad, you can do it, and then all of a sudden you do it, and the crowd goes wild. So you earn the small purse for basically being that underdog role, and there's a couple of people who drop you a few eddies for in your tip jar essentially. Meanwhile, you walk away with a 300 eddy purse, and you're all right. And you turn a couple of heads as you do it, right? So
I like this rocket blading thing.
So Chris, what is APT doing?
APT is doing little gigs. I want to paste a picture of more or less where she lives in the chat. And there's an article here that goes with it. You don't have to read the article, but you may want to later. It's kind of cool. But inside the Streaming Saturday chat, for those of us following at home, it's a picture of container homes being set up right now in Maui. But what I imagine is that on the edge of the combat zone between the Glen and the old combat zone, they probably set these things up 20 some years ago after the nuclear blast. And these are older and decrepit now, but this is the kind of place that APT lives, in these old in these old boxes. And so she is down there diligently toiling away, trying to make eddies to get out of there, and doing little side gigs here and there, little digital smash and grabs and such. However, one thing she does do is write a little script to keep a look at the bounty and then just flash it out to everybody's phones every time it changes. Or not phones, but their user agents, so that everybody gets an alert when the bounty changes. That's a couple of weeks, doing a couple of jobs, and then she will go to be Omen's quote pit crew unquote if Omen will have her.
Yes.
Bob will, of course, get footage of APT as well, being pit crew.
So now it occurs to me as we kind of build out like this Rocketblade downtime is that you could actually have like the downtime for the racers, but then the downtimes for these other jobs that you do. Mm-hmm. Right. For other, like, so we'd have a pit crew downtime as well, which I have not yet created, but
sure.
That seems reasonable. And we could just, roll on your existing, at the end of the day, it's just a random chart anyway, but
right.
It just adds a little bit of flavor. So we can always come back to that later. But
I want to be clear that APT is not a tech.
Oh, right.
She's a net runner. So how useful she is relatively minimal, but the best thing she can do is make sure Omen isn't getting hacked. And that's,
yep.
that has its own value.
Or on the not so ethical side, perhaps APT could do the equivalent of like dropping a lug nut in front of the other team's pit, as if they didn't put all of them onto the tires before they zoomed out.
Look, screws fall out all the time. It's an imperfect world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to do is like build out different sorts of races around Night City. So what I'm envisioning is like each of the neighborhoods has its own street races that are basically happening totally Fast and the Furious style. All of it's ramping up towards the big stadium tournament. Ramping. Right. Yeah. There's actually ramps that will lead into it. Like everybody airdrops. Yeah. You have to most flair allows you to advance into the competition. But in any case, so I'm imagining there's different style races around the city as well. And so, yeah, there's going to be some places where there's just like all kinds of like street glass and just like totally very gritty and industrial. And then there's going to be the higher end neighborhoods where you basically have like what my neighborhood's going to have in, I think 2 or 3 weeks, we have Porch Fest where everybody like gives up their porches for live music to be played.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if, yeah, it's pretty cool, but I'm imagining like the Porch Fest equivalent in the Night City sort of like suburban neighborhoods where everybody just gets together and like they're serving lemonade from their porch while the racers are going around.
I could totally see that. In Akron, they call it the Porch Rocker Festival.
There you go. Yeah. Right. So, and then occasionally they're like looking a little side eye at, some of these racers are looking a little dubious. We're letting people in from outside the neighborhood. I don't know. Some potential social tension building there. But anyway, so you want to do a roll for, let's see, Netrunner Hustle.
Yeah, let me, I don't have it open. Just sorry, 1 second. I opened the wrong file earlier. Okay, let me pull that down.
I have it open in front of me, so if you just want to roll a D6.
All right, I'll roll. What am I rolling?
Just a D6.
Just a D6. I can find a D6 to roll. That's fine.
Oh man.
What happened to? There it is. Sorry.
You have a very good chance of getting 300.
I rolled a 4.
All right. Found a valuable data cache in an abandoned system and sold it. So you earned 300 EVs.
Yay! I'll take it.
Just so happened to be one of the data caches that one of the other skater teams were using.
Look, you hack where you are, is all I'm saying.
So another week goes by. your script bings and everybody's your script runs and everybody gets a notice that their bounties have continued to increase. You're each up to about 1,500 EVs, except for Atlas, who is now up to 250.
Wow.
Sorry, 2,050.
Oh, okay.
Bob would like to listen for rumors about like who is actually like put the bounties out and where they're getting the funding for the bounties.
Sure. So that's your media ability, correct?
Yes. And sometimes having a PDF is not as good as a book.
Yeah, it has its moments.
Usually with the
So
PDFs,
I can do an active rumor, appropriate stat versus relevant skill plus a D10. So I would guess, I would hope conversation and not streetwise.
Well, so I guess so conversation implies.
Sorry.
All right. So what's the difference between those two skills?
That's a good question. I don't know. Because there's also human perception.
Conversation relies on empathy. Streetwise relies on cool. That's about the best I could tell you. Although it's weird, interrogation also is a cool role, so I don't know.
Looking at the skills.
Okay,
Please hold
so
while we look at skills.
human perception is the skill of reading a person's facial expressions and body language. Persuasion is the skill of convincing, persuading, or influencing individuals. Streetwise is the skill of making and using contacts to get illegal goods and contraband. So
It sounds
don't know
like
if that fits.
I think it's conversation.
Exactly.
So
Conversation, extracting information from people without alerting them with careful conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that's what you're trying to do, because you're the subject of one of the bounties.
Right. That is true. That is true.
I heard
Also, by the
way,
way, I know I just went up to rank 5, which does change things in terms of like my notoriety or my audience or things like that. I imagine that's happening. It hasn't instantly happened, but it's happening. I went from like a neighborhood sort of person to I have access to major city players, city politicians, or a local celebrity. My audience is stuff that will now go citywide. I'm a regular columnist or contributor to local scream sheets or TV. And the impact is change created by a story or scoop changes things all over the city. Higher level bad guys may be jailed or thrown out of power, and local laws may even be passed. So, like, he's getting. It's kind of a big jump to go from 4 to 5.
Yeah, clearly.
Although 300 improvement points is a lot to spend in order to get from 4 to 5.
Right, and as a reminder from last time, we basically accelerated XP awards by multiplying things by 3 so that we could make these kinds of jumps. So we'll have to retroact. So obviously, like your stories are getting picked up at a better pace than we thought.
Yep.
All right. So
I did conversation, which is I don't know why did it roll a D10? Is that what it's supposed to do? Forget.
I think so.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out where the +5 came from.
I think the die exploded.
Oh, the die exploded. Well, it didn't add my. Oh wait, no, it did because it's based on empathy. So 26.
Jesus.
I have a conversation of 11. I rolled a 10 on the D10 and then another 5 once it exploded. So, yeah, 26 for active rumors. Passive rumors is based on my credibility plus a D10. So,
all right. So there is an organization. It's actually a startup called Brain Bank, and Brain Bank is basically offering intelligence laundering services to corporations in the city. And one of the things that they offer is placing anonymous bounties out on edgerunners and other people for whom corporations would not necessarily want it to be traced back to them. However, you know things.
yep.
And putting together, digging into the story, Brain Bank has a number of notable corporate backers, including Zetatech and Stormhold Industries.
Stormhold was who again? Sorry.
Stormhold's the people you stole the truck from.
Oh, right. Okay, Zetatech
God, that
was
name sounds familiar.
Zetatech was the black box. Stormhold was the truck. Okay.
And there was the through Zetatech, it is clear that there is a Izzy, the lead. None of this is coming as a particular surprise as you put all of the pieces together, but Isabel, the lead agent who survived the fight with Zetatech Aerocop that unfolded 3 weeks ago at this point, or 2 weeks ago at this point. She is the person who has given the additional details for the bounty, and basically is using her corporate card to bankroll taking down Atlas, finding Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bounty is very much on the find these people and bring them to the appropriate drop point. But if they happen to die, that's okay. But Atlas, preferably alive.
So I caught something in what you were saying, was she's kind of using the corporate card to put these bounties out, which in Angry Bob's mind is saying she may not have approval to do this. Okay. I would like to get the crew together.
I think she. So I think it's she's using her corporate card. Yep. She is a corporate agent for Zetatech. Whether or not she has blessings from on high that they know that she's doing a bounty to go and find.
I don't know that.
You wouldn't know that, but
But it seems like it could be the case. Or maybe APT could make it the case where the approval email gets lost.
Yeah, and so basically there's basically an accelerator on the bounty because she placed the initial bounty. She's been upping it on the corporate card, and then Stormhold came along and said, "Oh, they may not have the necessary they haven't put 2 and 2 together necessarily because the two teams are working, but they saw, there's a bounty out there on these people who took out our truck.
Yeah,
we're gonna throw in some extra EBs into the overall bounty to have it accelerate."
Okay. I'd like to reach out to the crew, have them get together at the local shawarma place or something like that.
The place where we live is Jesse James Corned Beef, which is primo. It's actually if you go to nightcity.io on the maps, it's down in the corner of the old combat district, and it's got a description. But it's let's meet there.
Jesse James Corned Beef.
Yeah, seriously, Jesse James Kosher Deli, actually. Located in the old combat zone, Jesse James Kosher Deli is a deadly hangout spot popular amongst nomads and boosters, known to serve good corned beef on rye to those willing to brave the nightly body count.
So
That's
is this
one heck of a
APT's
sandwich.
suggestion of like, hey, we need to go to this this
She
deli?
lives around the corner from it, so
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll. I guess we'll meet there. Since APT suggests it. Bob's gonna come in and say, I know APT's been given some updates on the bounties. I got some news that I kind of wanted to say in person. Heard some rumors that security agent is using the corporate card to start off the bounties, and has been upping it. Don't know. Seems like it's possible that she may not have authorization to do that, but Zetatech has figured out that they're looking for us as well, and so they're upping the bounty as well. So perhaps APT, you could reach out and figure out if we could cut the funding in some ways, redirect the bounty, find out if that security agent is actually got permission to use that card for distributing bounties, or maybe make that permission disappear.
I can go and poke around.
So I think
the extra thing though is my editor is asking for more information, more story on you guys, because you guys are hot. You sell. So I'm holding off on any of that stuff.
You're part of this, or you're totally Peter Parkering this thing, right? You're taking pictures of yourself doing things. You are the story, buddy. You can't extract yourself from it.
Yeah, I know. So it's going to be one of those things where if we continue with this stuff, I'm either going to need to kill this as a story because it's going to bring down too much heat, or we're going to do one really big splash of a story, and that will be our payout to leave Night City.
So I think here's how I'm envisioning how Brain Bank works. Brain Bank is a startup because there's all these in the aftermath of the Fourth Corporate War. There's a number of different small corporations rising up in Night City because the larger transportation and internet networks and what have you haven't been restored or anything like that, right? So I'm envisioning Brain Bank as basically, hey, we'll do the intelligence laundering for you, right? And so Zetatech as a corporation, kind of goes, oh, well, here's this service that we totally need. And so they make it available to their internal people and say, yes, if there's the standard memo. If you need to put a price on someone's head, please engage with our new corporate partners, Brain Bank, right? And so I envision that Izzy is now taking advantage of that. Perhaps now, is she abusing it? Is she taking it above and beyond? Is it going a little shady? I think those are all really good questions to ask. But I'm envisioning Zetatech as a corporation seems to like to work with different prototype startup companies because they're obviously working with Stormhold as well. But perhaps they haven't necessarily thought through the consequences of letting people use their corporate cards to take out hits on others. Or maybe they have. Who knows? We're going to find out. And so as I'm thinking through it, I'm thinking Stormhold's there's this agent. And so we're just going to piggyback on, we're going to oh yeah, we see this thing. So obviously we're going to continue to kick funds into it. The bounty comes out as one big bounty, but presumably on the back end, Izzy is working her channels to say, I know who did this. The bastard will pay. But I'm imagining that it could, is it going to turn into a Heat thing? The movie Heat, where everybody just starts going down the increasing vindictive route? Perhaps. But we're still in downtime. So I think we're possibly setting up our next run, in terms of being able to go and actually crack, brain bank or whatever, that sounds like more of a scenario type thing than just straight up downtime. So I think we'll just continue to do it. Like, I think that's going to be potentially setting up our next adventure as you're dealing with the bounties on your heads. And I think at any time you guys could decide to drop out of downtime because you've had enough downtime fun and now actually need to deal with problems.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I guess that was going to be kind of next week's
Zoom
thing.
Thank
I
you.
imagine we're probably going to start getting hungry for our next job. So I don't know who sets us up with our fixer or whatever.
APT's had the fixer last time, so.
Bless you.
Okay, so Angry Bob, why don't you do another? So since we're currently focusing on Angry Bob right now, while you were out and gathering your rumors, no doubt you had a little bit of a side hustle that was going on. So why don't you roll your side hustle?
Another D6, right? Why did I put that away?
You can do it.
I know you can roll dice and roll 20, right?
I can. Where in the
on the sidebar? It's all
is
the way
there a
down
side
the
hustle button?
No, I don't think so. I just roll a slash D6.
Oh, jeez, come on.
If you look
Another
on the,
3.
All right. So again, you continue to roll. You you're.
I marveled on my marvel die.
Yeah.
So you can see that the ad copy is continuing to pay the bills.
So it's another 300.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, no FaceTime on the camera though. It's got to be itching.
You got to, there's a lot of grunt work you do as a reporter.
It's true.
Trust me.
As Ken knows.
Yes. All too well. This is the equivalent of doing the police log, where you have to call around to all of the state police barracks and say, "Hey, did anything happen today?" Okay, yeah, right. Maybe that's a story. No, actually, it's not. All right,
happens?
so
okay, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I used to do when I was a reporter. We'd have police calls and fire calls, so you would call around to every fire station and see if anything interesting had happened. And then you would get like the police log, and then you'd follow up with like the state police barracks and say, "Hey, there's this thing that showed up. Like, is there, can you tell me something more about this particular thing happened?" Because it's all public record. So,
yeah,
Interesting.
Ken's life as a reporter way back in the day. Yeah, looking at the crime log, like that's a classic source of stories, right? So you'd go to like local. Yeah, you go into like the police station, ask to see the crime log, and like it's the publicly reportable crime log, and then oh hey, look, this store got broken into. So then follow up.
I mean that's where Florida Man comes from,
Right.
Yeah.
We've got that in the paper. They published the police blotter. It is always entertaining.
Yes,
Always.
Yes. So many news stories that I can occasionally work in, I think, to the media. But in any case, Atlas. So I'm going to come back to Atlas. So APT, let's roll your downtime.
Yes, sir.
So are you focusing on doing the Netrunner hustle, or are you going to start like trying to do a pit crew hustle with Atlas? Or sorry, with Omen.
I'll do a pit crew. I
Okay.
mean, to help prep Omen, I'll help with that. I've got enough money. I've got enough for the moment. All right.
Because I think
so,
I'm envisioning we're just going to come up with how you end up making money as a
Yep.
as a member of her pit crew. So just roll a d6, and we're still going to use the Netrunner chart. But
okay, 5.
all right, so normally that would be brought down a major system with ransomware and got paid to uninstall it, and you earn 300 EBs. How are you earning money as a pit crew person for with Omen?
I think that I am working my contacts and sourcing material. I've got a contact who's a techie,
Okay.
and I think I'm working that and then fine tuning the software that helps run this stuff.
and of course, passing along the tech is at a slight premium.
Right.
Well, it's just, just for my time.
Right.
Well, I can imagine. So, like, you're doing the pit crew thing. There's, as you're doing these enhancements, you see, you know what? I got 5 of these. I give 1 to Omen just as the upgrades, and I sell the other 3.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
'Cause there's-
more or less It's more or less how she's making some bucks, whether it's to back to the techie or to another techie or at a night market or something like that.
Right. Cool. All right, Atlas. Omen. Let's see how things go with you.
Oh, okay. A drive.
Yes.
Woo! 17.
All right, so again, another first place finish, but not quite as spectacular as the previous one. So roll a d6 to determine how your flair.
I got
Your
a
competition
5 on
is
that
stepped up their game.
Yeah, so
one. No longer a dark horse.
rival for life, or at least the tournament. So, do you want to come up with your rival, or do you want me to come up with your rival?
Go ahead and you can come up with it because it could take me longer.
Okay. I'm just going to do it in ChatGPT, right?
You're consulting your oracle.
I'm consulting my
oracle.
oracle. Consulting my oracle. All right, so I'm just going to make a note. So your style has been basically straight at them. Like you're not being how is your driving style applied to the race, I guess is what I'm wondering. Like how did you I'm trying to think of like how you're pissing people off in the race. Is like you were drafting on somebody and then like shooting to the lead. Like you did the underdog thing before. How is that playing out in the next race? Because you won again, but is it because you're like constantly coming from the back and that's now your thing, or you're just like completely overdrive and like you sent a couple people into the curb? Like what's your driving style and how did it apply to
I
the
kind of
race?
like that drafting idea. I start off after letting a first like 2 or 3 get off, get in front of me, and then I draft off of them, which means that I'm not working so hard through the race. And then when they're getting tired, that's when I still got reserves and I just shoot in front of them.
Okay. So I can imagine that so what I'm imagining is it's the number 2 person and you did this to them the first time in the previous week's race, and you just did it to them again in this race. Drafting is bad form, right? They're constantly looking over their shoulder at you like, what the hell, right? Like, because I mean, there's drafting, and like I'm imagining, like just from what I've seen from like speed skating in the Olympics, right? Like ice skating, right? Like,
yeah,
drafting is part of it, but there's drafting and then there's drafting, and I think you're perhaps taking that nomad edge, and you're just right on their ass, and all they want to do, like I can imagine they're like flailing about and like trying to get you to just like race on your own. Damn it. So I think
Got to use every edge you get.
right.
Yep.
So I'm going to come up with a name for this person later, but we're just going to call him number 2 for now. The perpetual number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see, because what my head keeps going to is Lightning McQueen and the Cars races, because I think I've probably watched Cars way more than I've watched like NASCAR.
and I thought Jonathan Frakes.
All right,
You just take Lightning McQueen and you tweak it a little bit, and it's Thunder Queen.
right.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to come up with your race name,
Or
Aaron.
Queen Thunder.
Oh, okay.
So I think that earns you a total of, let's see, what did I? So you rolled Rival for Life. Your rank is 4, so you're going to earn a total of 400 EBs from racing.
Woo.
All right, so Atlas, you so first, so you're continuing to just kind of like work at the church, do these occasional odd jobs as like
Yeah, I'm trying to think outside of Angry Bob even telling him that they have a bounty. He probably didn't even know he had a bounty on him because it's literally just home, cube, cat, work, church, thing, home.
Yeah, I mean, I
cube,
think it's one of those
cat.
things like it's kind of like you get so much spam, right? And your user agent, like, it pops up and you just kind of like instantly click it off. Like, who cares?
Just
Whatever.
delete.
It's just more spam from APT. She's always sending us like cat memes.
There's always some kind of heat that comes with these things. Yeah, I get it. Corpos don't like me. Blah blah. Blah.
Whatever. Probably tuning out during the whole, yeah, but Izzy is gunning for you. Remember Izzy? You're like, well, whatever, you know.
Blah, 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 imminent death, blah, blah, blah.
Like corporate enemy, whatever. So why don't you roll your solo hustle?
All right. 6.
All right. Basic enforcer or hitman work for a local corp. So do you want to branch out beyond the 6th Street gang, or do you want to continuing to do side gigs for them? Or, you know, I mean, I think doing work for the church too, like basic enforcer or hitman work for a local corp. I could see like, hey, we need to send brother so-and-so to go talk to somebody. You mind going with them? Like, I think that would count.
That kind of, yeah. We're trying to do like a little offshoot, like same kind of counseling, but at a specific location.
Right.
Just need somebody to make sure, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I like it.
All right, so you're rank 5, so that's 200 EBs.
Woohoo!
From your side hustle.
Man, I'm actually not doing too bad in the cash department right now.
So, as you leave work for the night, I think so. You can make. This is where I need my big list of skills. Where did I put my big list of skills?
While you're looking that up, Josh, don't forget we're 3 weeks into this downtime. At the end of week 4, you have to pay for your housing and your food again.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm always so right now with that 200. I'm at 1100 right now, so I've actually got enough for my 500 EB cube and my 300 pre-pack for next month too. I'm good.
Right, but I think the point with downtime is like you can subsist on downtime, but you're not really making any money.
Oh yeah,
Right.
it's literally cube work, cube work, cube work.
Yep.
No side entertainment at all. I'm entertained by my cat. That is about it.
Yep.
All right, so
I'm saving up money for the next gun show.
Yeah, because like for me, if I'm considering where I'm going to live and what I'm going to eat at a Cube Motel in Kibble, I have 150 left over.
Yeah.
so Josh, make a perception check
All right.
as you're making your way back to the cube.
13.
Okay.
Oh boy.
You appear to have drawn some attention. There's these 3 lowlifes who are shadowing you as you're heading back to your cube, and you're pretty much zoned out a lot of the time. But like they stumble into a garbage can and kind of step up right, and you can tell like they're paying an overdue interest in you. Like they are purposely shadowing you, and you can tell like they're not just like your regular schmoes, right? Like they've got bulges in places where one might hide weapons and such.
I thought that was regular schmo in Night City.
Well, yeah, but I mean more so than they're a little bit more heavily armed than your average schmo.
All right.
And so I think because this is downtime, I think we'll transition into actual play soon. But like I think you've noticed that, and so clearly people are starting to like the previous weeks. People may have been watching you or on the lookout for you, but it hadn't broken into your bubble. It is now like these people have broken into your bubble,
I gotcha.
and they don't take any action just yet, but like they're there.
Yeah. I would
You might be able to
probably,
lose
once
them
I
before you get back.
The what?
I said you might be able to lose them before you get back to your cube hotel.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Or if worst case, I'll just take a loop into like a local bar to get more public around me and try to lose myself in the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think at any time we can choose to just like break out of downtime and say like, okay, things are getting more intense, right? We don't actually have to like do another week of downtime. But you're feeling like you've been noticed. So you lose them in the bar. But clearly attention is ratcheting up.
Yeah. And I guess at that point, once it starts invading my bubble, that's probably when I'll start giving the rest of the team a call and saying, hey, I've noticed some people watching us, or at least watching me. Keep an eye out for people watching you. This might be something we have to deal with.
All right. So we're heading into, so it's been a grand total of, so we had like our initial week when you guys were after the job, right? And then we started actual downtime at the beginning of this session. And so at the beginning of week 1, I think is when you would have paid all of your stuff. So you're currently at the end of week 2 of like the new economy type thing. You were talking about a third week of downtime, but things are starting to kind of come to a head. At this point, APT also gets a contact from her fixer. Like the Priest reaches out to you with basically. So is Priest? Do we have a gender for Priest or?
Priest is male.
Okay.
Bastien Leclerc.
Okay, I think I knew that. So Priest reaches out and says, you've been, you up for a job?
Always up for a job.
Crew didn't do too bad, although they seem to be drawing a little heat. That's okay. You might be interested in the place where this job would take you might fit your current circumstances just fine. There's an individual who is interested in having you infiltrate the ruined Asgard Aeronautics Research Facility in Old Corp Center and reboot a server located in its rad-shielded basement. So this server has apparently been offline since Arasaka Tower was nuked. Someone's looking to have it come back on. Dangerous. They're willing to offer you 5,000 EBs up front and another 3,000 when the job is completed.
That's barely going to cover our expenses.
Well, I could go back to him.
Look, tell him we'll do it for 8.
8 up front?
Half up front, half on completion.
Because they were already offering you 8.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay.
They were offering you 5,000 up front.
I'm sorry. 5 up. I thought it was 5 total.
No. It's going to be 3,000 on completion and then 5,000 up front.
Well, let's do 5,000 and 5,000, and we'll do the job. That'll set us up in kibble for a little while.
Okay. She's like, or he says, Priest says, I'll give you the data drop, the usual place. There'll be some, I can give you the direct locations, but, stuff is a mess after the nukes went off and after the wars. So you're probably going to have to do some background to actually, we don't have plans or anything for you. I can just tell you approximately where the server room, I can tell you where the server room was.
That's worth something. We can at least get a casual layout. I'm sure it's all a mess now.
Yeah, I mean, there's all the old 2020 maps where they'll show you the corporate headquarters and that stuff. Even stuff like public domain records from that might be difficult to get after the war and things getting nuked. So,
how far into the Corp Center is this? Are we talking like next door to Arasaka Tower or?
Probably a couple blocks away.
All right. Okay.
Might want to take your rad medicine.
Rad shielding. Yeah. Maybe some tinfoil into hats. All right.
Take that iodine.
Right. Yeah. We'll do it. Let me just talk to everybody, and you get the price increase, and I will get the team.
Okay. Priest just nods and cuts the connection. So go back to the crew.
Yep, go back and tell them, Anybody want to go reboot a radioactive server?
I could do an urban exploration angle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at Asgard Industries, just down the street from Sokka Tower. We'd have to go into the rad shielded basement, turn it off and turn it on again. And for that,
Bob's
they will
gonna
pay
start.
us 10 grand to be divided between us, half up front and half at the end. Well, I'm trying to get 10 grand. They wanted 8. We're trying to push them to 10 because we have notoriety now. But, we'll see what they do.
10 grand.
But
So that's not
I like
each. That's not each, right? Yeah.
no, that's not each.
Mm.
That's
2,500 each is nothing to. spit
Yeah, I
and
mean,
blow
but that's a couple months of kibble.
Yeah, so
We'll
Bob's
probably
going to
need-
write down that he's thinking of an angle for like urban exploration, the history of what was the place again?
Asgard Industries. I
Asgard
think?
Industries. Yeah, like looking up what Asgard Industries was, what they did before.
Yep.
Some maybe a mysterious like what could be on that server angle of things. So, I mean, that's what he's going to start to do before we go on the run, to kind of give us some more information as we go in there.
He said,
Gotcha. So-
if you're all up for it, just think about what prep we need to do and get some iodine tablets. Get maybe put on your lead underwear.
So, are you thinking you're going to do another week of downtime, or are you going to like the job does not have a specific timeline? Like the server's been sitting there.
I
for
think
a
we
while.
do another week of downtime and then we start the prep.
Okay.
Probably
And
going
that-
to be research time
Yeah.
at the very least.
Yeah,
Where's
so
it going
but-
to be?
On
this map?
You know where the bomb went
It's-
off?
It's
throw
going to
a
be
rock.
somewhere. Oh,
I'm gonna
why
share
is my map
screen.
moving?
Oh, it's in that gray area.
It's somewhere in the gray area.
Yeah. Where it says Old Corp Center. You
Yep.
know,
Okay.
right about there.
Well, I'm going to
Right,
need
yeah.
a car.
Yeah. Start making your lists. I know I want to do some research on the blueprints and figure out. Fixer's going to set us up with a few things, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Never is.
Right. So, from a meta perspective for the game, I think any discovery, I have to write the adventure.
Right. Yeah,
So
there's that.
I think any like hardcore discovery and what have you, I think we'll do that as part of our next adventure, and then we'll just wrap up the particular downtime. I think one thing for Josh's downtime in particular is, which may be the thing that we set up for our next session, is what he's going to do about the people who are tailing him. You know, if you're going to try and like force that to a head, that would be helpful to know.
That's probably what's going to happen if I keep seeing them tail me.
All right. So why don't we do, so Atlas, why don't you roll your downtime again since we're doing more downtime?
All right. 4.
Okay.
I was hired as a muscle.
Hired as muscle to a fixer, corp, or gay. Yeah. So, 6th Street invites you along on a law enforcement mission where they just need a couple of extra people to look tough and, make sure that a rival gang stays out of North Haywood.
Yep. Makes sense. Bring my assault rifle and everything like that. So I'm all ready to go. Well, and yeah, I guess that's nice because I'll try to make as many contacts with them as I can, and kind of, I guess, become part of the. Well, if another gang is trying. If another gang is who's actually trying to tail me, at least I have my own kind of backup type of thing.
Yes, exactly. So, so I'm going to come up with a couple of just like guys, in 6th Street. They're actually in total product placement, but I bought this. Danger Gal Dossier has the 6th Street Gang stat blocks. So
nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's actually, I told David at Gen Con I was only buying stuff I was going to use. And
I did not. I was not that lucky.
Sticking to that. Look, I actually used it, David.
I figured you used that one. Have you used the Star Trek Captain's Log yet?
No.
But it looks nice.
Yeah. APT. You want to do a hustle?
Yeah,
roll?
we're gonna do a net runner this time, I think.
Okay.
I mean, unless Omen needs me, but I don't know that I do anything to help her really. Where did my dice go? There they are. All right, cool. A 5.
All right. Brought down a major system with ransomware and got paid to uninstall it.
Yeah.
That is so APT.
I really want it to be like Stormhold or something, but yeah. Insult to injury.
Oh, I think that could totally be it, right? Like they're the local franchise, because they have like people-driven vehicles as well, right? So you got into like the franchise node and the dispatching software, and now it just like, I don't know why it won't work. It must be the firewall.
Yep, must be. All righty, cool. That's awesome.
All right, Omen, let's see how you do.
All right. I'm going to flub this time, I think, but let's give it a shot. I did not flub.
Wow. All right. So once again, like the hometown. Well, you're not exactly the hometown girl made good. You're more like the mysterious nomad outsider made good. So roll
Racer
D6.
X.
Racer X. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
roll
another
Maverick.
Boy here soon.
Roll another D6 so we can see how your flare.
2.
2. Underdog again. So I think part of like your mystique is they just the kind of the grungy nomad who people just think like, and I think you're playing to the crowd. I think at this point you're just playing to the crowd, right? Like you could win at any time, like Flash in The Incredibles, right? Like don't go too fast, and then no, don't lose. You want to make it look good, right? And so, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you doing that, or is it actually like she's not kind of engaged, kind of drifting through her memories of the bad things that have happened, and all of a sudden it's like wakes up and has to win the race? Or is it you're playing?
I like that approach, actually. I do like that approach of, letting people all just go in front of her, and she's not dressed in very sponsored gear. And because she's got a bounty on her, she's wearing a face mask. And so she looks like a nobody, and then all of a sudden she just takes it over.
So she's purposely hanging back and then taking over. Is where.
Yep.
So I think for the next time, it would be great for you to, so especially since you've got the mask, right? Which is classic sort of racing, cyberpunk, Racer X, like David was saying, kind of makes me. I hear the Speed Racer movie is bonkers, but actually fun. I've never actually watched it, and people were just talking about it being very cyberpunk as well, because it's eye candy, but there's this whole like corporate racing thing going on. Very zany, from what I understand. But in any case, I think it would be cool to find out what this APT persona. It's not APT. What this Omen persona is, right? Like. Especially if there's the dramatic reveal at the championships. Or just like the legend of someone. It's like in Death Race, right? Like, was it Tomb? What was the guy who has the lead racer in Death Race?
I watched all the Death Races, but I was studying for an exam while I did it, so...
it wasn't Tomb Crusher. It was like
No, it was Frankenstein something.
Frankenstein.
Yes.
I think it was just Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Yeah.
He had the grenade embedded in the hand.
Right. Yeah. I'm envisioning like that's the kind of like who is Frankenstein, right? Like anyway, who is this mysterious racer woman? All right, and so on my little chart, that means you get 300 and 50. So you get 350.
I need to watch that again because it was great.
Death Race.
Oh yeah, Aaron and I, we were going for our sailing certification, and happened to be the hotel. There wasn't anything good really on until we discovered that the newer Death Race, they rebooted the thing as kind of like a series. And there are 3 or 4 different Death Race movies now, basically based in like a city that has been turned into a prison, kind of like Escape from New York. And the Corp is doing these races to a la kind of the Running Man movie, but it's much more like they're just racing around the prison. And they actually have things like power-ups. The cars have guns on them, but you have to basically run over a certain power-up in the road to activate the guns, and things like that in one of the movies. It was zany B-movie fun.
Yeah, so I'm envisioning something.
In it.
Yeah,
he's in one of them.
Yeah, I think he's in the first one. Or maybe, I don't remember. Anyway, the first movie then came out, and then there was the second movie was actually a prequel to the first movie that shows how Frankenstein came to be. So in any case, I can I can envision as the Rocketblade tournament like builds, like the final tournament has got to have some of that stuff in the stadium, right? Like it's going to be like a monster truck rally. And there's going to be power-ups that you're going to choose, but I'm torn between being able to actually play that as a fun game and stream, and not getting completely bogged down in random rolls or like rules minutia. But I think there's a way forward there, just to make it really narrative, and the rules are just kind of informing like how stuff goes. But
another option would be to have us have to do a run in the middle of a race.
Oh yeah. So I also like that was the other thought that David and I had is like either originally it was like, well, we'll have the tournament going off, and then there's a run that's happening. So you guys play the characters who were in the race and then also what was happening during the race, like leverage style, right? But it might just be that the crew is just doing the same thing, right? Like you guys have a reason to be there because you have a racer in the race. So it could be an epic conclusion to this season, but we'll see. So Angry Bob, you want to do some downtime?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and roll this. I have a 6, not a marvel, but an actual 6.
Okay. Wrote an expose that blew the lid off a major topic.
I think he uncovered some corruption in the Rocketblade racing. And, like he's been in the pits, he's been doing a whole bunch of other stuff and found out that there was some like pay to play sort of thing going on, and some of the races were rigged, and he blew the lid off of it.
Nice.
Oh, did you take out my number 2?
For it.
Oh no, I think number 2 is still around. But maybe number 2 is implicated. But not like, sort of implicated but not convicted. We're gonna have fun making up number 2.
Yeah, and I don't think it's given that it's major, but it's not like it wasn't the sponsors of the Rocketblade thing. It was like a couple of different teams or whatever that were in there. So it's not going to shut the whole Rocketblade thing down, but it's definitely a dark mark on Rocketblade.
Right. So a couple of people get disqualified placement gets moved up. Like lower place people get moved up, the races go on, but maybe a little ire gets introduced into the rocket. What had been the good, wholesome fun of Rocketblade, the one game that can pull the whole city together again, And then, of course, there's going to be the defenders who don't believe that like the teams actually were disqualified because they didn't actually do anything wrong, and that's totally legal. And what are you talking about? We're making the rules up as we go along. It's great.
He found out the Russian team was doping.
Yeah, that was totally a legit tactic and a legit thing for them to do when it wasn't corporate sponsored. So they should still be allowed to do it while it's corporate sponsored.
When we did it in the trenches, when we were back doing stickball, there was a stickball supplement as DLC for Cyberpunk Red as well.
Really?
Nice.
Yes, with actual rules.
There's also
stickball.
Yeah, and Ken and I have also talked about Elf Lines Online. Which is the MMO inside of Cyberpunk Red.
David and I have a funny story about that when we're done with this session.
Oh no!
All right, so I think that's where we're gonna lead it. We've done Downtime. I think I liked it. I think Downtime does provide it takes a little time to get through it, so we basically dedicated a session to doing Downtime. But I think we were able to develop some fun backstory with Downtime. So
I'll build out the personality a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next time. David, I do not actually have the outro in front of me.
Thanks for watching. If you want to check us out, best place right now is on Mastodon at Lair of Secrets at dice.camp. Some of our links are in our profile. If you need to find anything else, just chat at us, and we are very responsive over there. See you again soon.